Welcome, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs, the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers, and I'm here to help you build your best cloud computing career. Maybe your goal is to get your first solution architect job, your first cloud architect job, your first enterprise architect job, your first cloud engineer job, whatever it is, I'm going to help you get cloud hired. See, I've been working in tech now for over 25 years. And I'm helping others get their first tech job or get promoted in tech for more than 2 decades. And I want to make sure you get cloud hired by building the exact perfect plan. See, if you know what employers look for and you have all the desirable traits that employers are looking for and the right skill sets, you're going to be hired. And I want to make that happen for you as best, fast, and cheap as possible. So that's why I'm here 5 times per week in some way, shape, or form asking your cloud computing career questions, because we want you to know and be empowered so you can get the cloud computing job over your dreams. Personally, I'm a cloud architect and an enterprise architect and a network architect, but no matter what you want, the jobs are wonderful, they're great, and you can get them with the right attitude, energy, enthusiasm, training, and planning. And that's why I do what I do along with my wonderful team. Let me tell you about 3 free things we're doing for you this week, because this is a very special week for you, and we've got more exciting things coming up after this week too. Please join me on Thursday on the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. On these webinars, people come from all around the world, and they learn about what it takes to be the world's greatest cloud architects, which of course gets you cloud hired. My students get hired almost every day. And part of that is knowing what hiring managers want, having the right skills that hiring managers desire, training for the right skills and not studying the wrong skills, how to leverage your past experience regardless of what industry it is to show the hiring manager you're ready, becoming the hiring manager's dream hire, and of course, tuning your resume, and so much more. And we'll talk about this completely free on How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar this Thursday and every Thursday. Now, this week, we have our AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp. I do these free periodically, and I do it because most people cannot afford quality solution architect certification training. There's a lot of stuff out there that is made by people that have never worked in the job in their entire life. They worked at some academy, maybe teaching Linux, and the next thing you know, they're taking a cert and they're training it. But you can't teach what you don't know. You can't teach what you've not done. And what happens is people get these certifications and they don't know anything. They know the name of a service and how to configure, but not how it works, not how to design it, present it, sell it, or anything. So we're going to do our free boot camp to make sure that at least you understand what the technology is and how that technology works. We're going to do it completely free this week, all week. It will not be some kind of miserable experience where you watch PowerPoint slides with voiceover, blah, 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 blah. We'd never do that for a free customer. I can't believe people charge for that, and then they're teaching the wrong things. We're going to make it free and live. We'll present for 20 minutes. You'll ask questions for 10 minutes or so. And we'll repeat this throughout the entire process to make sure you get what you need. It's a real learning experience, and you get cloud hired, which that's the whole point. Having the skills that are necessary to meet employers' needs. So please join us. If you haven't signed up, the link is in the description below in a chat box. Tell a friend, because we want to make sure as many people as possible throughout the world and those that need it most take advantage of this free training. Now, it's Cybersecurity Month, right? So my team decided to come up with a 30% off coupon code using the word security. And the reason is it's Cybersecurity Month. We know exactly how bad inflation has been taking a bite out of your pocketbooks and paychecks. And we want to know that you have the skills to get an elite career that pays you an elite salary so you don't ever have to care about money again. Most of my graduates that take our training say, Mike, it's changed my life. Many of them have more than a 6-figure increase in their salary. And I want that to happen to you. I want you the world's best life, the world's best career, and of complete and total financial security, have a career that rises like a rocket ship, because I want you to be the elite, the world's best, and that's why I'm here on this channel providing free guidance basically every day of the week. And of course, I'm out there for my students, teaching them how to do everything, and they're getting hired every day with and without experience. So please bring me your questions so I can help you get cloud hired. Bring us your questions related to your career. Obviously, we'll be doing tech training this week, but here it's all about what you do for your career. So you can give me a question. If you give me a hashtag cloud hired in the chat box, and When you're there, give me a hashtag. Tell me what career you actually desire so we know who you are. And then please ask us questions so I can be there to assist you in building your best cloud computing career. They're not tech questions. We've got plenty of time for that. That's what we do in our training. We'll be doing some of that in this week boot camp. But ask us your career questions, because when should help you get cloud hired. Hello, hi, Iker. It's good to see you. Up and Up, thank you so much. You missed me. I hope I feel better today. My voice is gradually coming back. I had a pretty nasty case of laryngitis, so I asked the doctors to give me whatever they could to make sure that I can be here for you all completely free this week to help you all get cloud hired. Chris Johnson, my Chief Operating Officer. Let's do this. Go ahead and share your cloud career questions. Please, please, please. Absolutely. Matt over Cloud, it's good to see you today. Big Jerry 23, cloud hired. That's why I live, to get you all cloud hired. Min Win, cloud hired and good vibes. I absolutely love that. Elizabeth James, as a new student, how does one catch up with all the content in the program? Well, Elizabeth, great question. We structure our program a certain way. When someone signs up, they get a welcome email. And in that welcome email, it directs them to our training. And in that training, it's laid out lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. Now, granted, there's 5 and 6 and 700 lessons probably, but the key is to do them in order. At the same time, we also have our class recordings. We want you to do them in order as well. And then after each phase, a new module will open up. And when that module comes up, guess what? From there, do the next thing. Do the next thing, do the next thing. There is nothing to catch up with because your part of the course is self-paced. Now, the classes that you attend, the live classes, well, they're basically recycled. What do I mean by recycled? Every 20 weeks or so, we repeat our complete sequence, meaning we'll start with a networking thing, then a this thing, then a that thing, and then a that thing. And the architectures rotate periodically. And that way, anybody that's in the program, for example, can keep going from point A to point B to point C to point D. That way, everybody gets one of every single architecture. Nobody's left behind. So the key is do the work, do the course load, do the required reading, watch our videos. If you note, if I ever notice there's a weakness in some people in class, I make a YouTube video or a LinkedIn post about it the next day. And that's why I ask you to watch these things and comment on the video so we know you watched them. Because I want to know that if there's ever a weakness, we fix it. And it's not our weaknesses because we've been doing this a long time, but if there's a student weakness, we want to fix it. And of course, if our students actually give us a question that they need something on, we'll add more content because we want to make sure that everybody gets hired. But please follow the course. I'm going to tell you right now, I've had so many successful people that were landscapers, that were serving food at restaurants, that were psychologists, that, I can't even begin to tell you their jobs. They all got cloud hired as cloud architect, solution architect, but they followed the work in order. 99% of these questions that I'm coming in when someone decides to just do the course in their own order, they skip ahead to the labs. And here's the thing, for an architect, don't skip ahead to the labs. Why? The labs are the least critical part of our program. Why? Because architects never touch the technology, ever. And in many companies like AWS, our person told you last week, one of our many graduates in AWS, he's not even allowed to touch the customer's technology. They're not allowed. So focus in order. Focus with the build the plan in the beginning. Focus with our team that will help you make sure that plan is right and do the plan in order. That's the way you catch up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you had to eat an elephant, and I would never want to eat an elephant because I love elephants, but if you had to, you do it one bite at a time. And Elizabeth James, since there's a roadmap planned out for you, please file that in order. And guess what? You'll be cloud hired and you're going to do great. Please don't follow it out of order. I don't want you zigzagging all around. There's a reason we structured our content the way we did. Chris, let's go to the next one. And we put in our link a list of Yvonne talking about his job where he'll tell you we're not allowed to even touch the technology over at AWS and the solution architecting. Can't touch the customer's technology. Matt over cloud, if someone wants to be a cloud security architect, what do you suggest? And does your program have different cloud security architect and cloud infrastructure architect? Mad Over Cloud, we help everybody get to their career goals. Delray Bat, for example, was one of our students, and we made a cloud security architect. Prior to us, he had no security background whatsoever. He was an emergency medical technician on ambulances. A year later, he had 3 offers to be a cloud security architect, and they were good offers. 2 were at the big 4 consulting firms, and 1 was a CDW, which is a huge platinum gold partner for many of the big technology vendors. And he went there, and he absolutely loves his job. He came to visit. So what path that I suggest is you take our course, and in our course, you will fill out the program, and we will tell you what to learn. For example, you're not going to get any job by going out as a cloud security by doing an AWS Advanced Security or something too basic like that. That'll never help you in your goals. And here's why. These things teach you the name of proprietary service and how to configure all those proprietary services that you can't use in real security anyway. Because when it comes to real security, it's learning multi-vendor things. So first, you need to understand the network and the data center, which we teach in our program. Next, you need to learn security. Now, what is security? Well, you have to determine, for architecture, it's going to be defensive security. So here's what that means. It means you need to understand next generation firewalls, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, VPN concentrator, how to architect the perfect demilitarized zone. Now, from there, looking at vulnerabilities in operating systems, for example, learning at the end-to-end encryption strategy, looking at security across the wide area network is something critical to do. Now, working with the infrastructure engineers to make sure, for example, that QoS is deployed on the WAN connections going in there, if and when, as well as the customer's private or hybrid clouds, because you can do a lot more security in the data center than you ever can on a public cloud. Now, next, it's learning about identity and access management strategies. And it's not the cloud provider stuff, it's the industrial grade things. Microsoft Active Directory and all these things. Now, from there, it's about learning how to write a security policy for the entire organization, how to assess an organization's security needs. What are you doing for social engineering to prevent that? What are you doing for phishing to prevent that? Now, it's not just writing the security policy, it's determining who your security partners are. It's working with the right team to develop security response procedures, for example. If something happens, what's that going to be that you're going to do? So keep that in the back of your mind. Now, next, how do you lock down a system? What's your patch management strategy? What kind of services need to be disabled on the service? What kind of kind of storage are we doing, and why? Next, it's planning around DDoS attacks. It's working with multiple content delivery networks, multiple service providers, security SIEM, which is basically event correlation and remediation, data loss prevention strategies. And these are the things that you need to learn. Now, remember, Mad Over Cloud, an architect and an engineer could be, honestly, they're 2 different animals, like a cat and a dog. The engineer is a hands-on techie, meaning they touch the technology and they configure the technology. But here's the thing. We are not hands-on techies as architects. We've got to design it, present it, and sell it. So you'll never get an architecture role by doing a bunch of certifications. Ever, ever, ever. You need to be trained in business acumen. And why? The whole point of the architect is to improve business performance through technology. So if you don't have business acumen training, we provide that. If you're not with us, get an MBA to learn the critical business skills. Now, you're going to be selling to the chief executive officer, the chief technology officer, the chief information officer. So you must have what's called CXO relevancy. Or how do you relate and message what the CEO cares about versus CIO versus CTO? Because it's a different method than what you provide to the management. And it's a totally different message to what you provide to the technology professionals. Now, all architecture involves leadership and facilitation and coordination with security vendors. When you've got a security product, you're going to be calling Microsoft and Cisco and Palo Alto and Fortinet, potentially Zscaler, RSA, and so many other companies. So you need to know that. So keep that in the back of your mind. Now, next, you're going to be presenting at conferences, presenting to CXOs, working conference booths. So again, if you're not with us, you're going to need some presentation training. Speak easy, provide some good presentation training. It's going to cost you a couple $1,000s for the week, but which is 3 to 5 times more than our whole course cost, but you're not going to get hired without that. So make sure you get that. Now, when it comes to emotional intelligence and soft skills, they're going to raise your salary 30% or so on average, which is why we teach them so heavily, and that's why our students earn far more than average graduates. And if you're not with us, buy a Daniel Goleman class on first one of the other people on emotional intelligence and get some training there. It's going to cost you $3,000 to $5,000, which is again about 7 times more than our course is on sale. But you need it for these jobs, so make sure you do that. Or just take our course and it's there. Now you'll use your emotional intelligence to be able to show the hiring manager that you're ready for the job, read them, guide the interview, and build relationships, which you're going to need to do in this job. Now, next, you need to have really good sales skills as an architect. Why? We don't touch the tech, we design it, present it, and sell it. So make sure you get some really solid sales training. We provide it in our course, but if not, find some good sales training. And again, it'll be $3,000 to $5,000 for the week, but make sure you get that training, or just take our course. I don't really care, I just want you getting hard. But don't think you get an architect job by training for engineering. Now, you could get a certification on your resume, which I recommend. And when I recommend a certification, I'll tell you to stay away from the AWS Advanced Networking, stay away from the Ccsp, for example, that's a waste of your time, and get a Cissp, for example. And here's the reason why. There's no such thing as cloud security, there's just security. And what we do in the cloud versus what we do in the data center are 90% the same. Nobody's going to want someone with a Ccsp certification, the cloud security one, and here's the reason why. You're going to be taking the stuff from the network in the data center to move it to the cloud, so they want to know you know what it all is. So don't limit yourself to a wasted certification like the Ccsp. Do the Cissp. Nobody's going to hire you for having a certification, but that certification will help you get an interview. But really, it's all about this. Now, I'll tell you, when my students do a Cissp, they're like, Mike, oh my God, this is the most basic thing I've ever seen. We did more in our first class than in the entire curriculum, and that's true. Now, if you don't have the requisite experience for the Cissp, you can still take the exam, and they could be something called an associate, which means you're a full Cissp, but you only get counted as an associate until you have your requisite years of experience. And that's really what I would do. But again, it's a job of designing, presenting, and selling. So learn security. Don't limit yourself to the silly businesses and certifications. That's 3 to 5% of what you need to be an architect. Learn your operating systems, learn your networking, learn your data center technologies. Learn all those things that we told you about. But remember, this is a job where you're going to be delivering presentations, entertaining clients and playing golf, selling stuff. And if you're only training the tech, you could do a cloud security engineer role, but you'll never be an architect. That's the key really things where people mess up the architecture career. We don't ever touch the tech as architects, ever. In many cases, we're not even allowed to by our companies. But we have to bring in teams of people together. We have to coordinate across multiple vendors. You're going to design a security thing. You're going to have some things from Zscaler, maybe some things from Microsoft, some things from Fortinet. Nothing is ever simple and elegant when it comes to security. And when it comes to security, it's all about quantifying business problems, for example. For example, you don't spend more to secure something, so there's that. So you're also going to need to build business cases showing people the cost of your security solution is mitigated by the protection they're giving, meaning you're going to have to quantify the value of the security assets they're trying to protect. And that means ROI modeling. So again, we teach all of that. And if you're not with us, get some business school training as well. But it's a wonderful career map over cloud. I'd love to train you. You'll be very happy here, regardless of how you get there. Just please know, this is not a career where certifications get you anywhere. This is a career about you being a business executive plus a technology professional married in the same person. Great question, Matt Evercloud. And yes, our Cloud Architect Career Development Program creates cloud architects, cloud enterprise architects for the right people, cloud security architects, and cloud network architects. Absolutely. Hello, Victor. It's good to see you. And Slim, it's so good to see you today. Amen. And hello, it's good to see you. Has anyone received a job offer from Microsoft as a cloud solution architect without a degree? Yes, we've got people that have received cloud solution architects with programs that don't have degrees. Absolutely. We had two people. One was actually a landscaper, and another person was a stay-at-home mom. But I think the stay-at-home mom did have a degree when she got her first cloud solution architect job with Microsoft. Great questions there, Up and Up. You always have the best ones. Now, I will tell you this. We have AWS hiring waiters. We had one, for example, Yvonne Tambo was hired without a degree. Coyote was hired with zero experience, fresh out of our program. Now, I will also tell you, like Joe Millen was a CCIE, and I told him that his networking background would help him get a senior solution architect job in about 2 months. He signed up with us 3 weeks later. He was a senior solution architect with AWS. For example, we had someone get hired by KPMG with zero experience. For example, we had someone recently get hired by Bearing Point, and they didn't have a college degree either. We have people that were emergency medical technicians with an associate degree that get offers every single day of the week. We had a psychologist this year, a behavioral health tech, got hired by JP Chase. And up, we had Daniel Bosa, one of my favorite students of all time. Someone that I say I wish he was my son because I love his attitude, energy, enthusiasm. He got hired by JP Chase, which is much harder to get hired for than a cloud provider because, they're a bank and their standards are sky high because seconds there cost millions of dollars. And he got hired without a high school diploma. Yes, you heard me. No experience and a high school diploma. And what was his last job? He was working for Nordstrom selling shoes. Now, having said that, I'd hire him to work in my company. Why? He followed all of our training and he was incredibly confident. So your past does not define your future. Every day somebody wants to tell me about the past and I say, well, okay, great. Would you like me to write a biography with you, co-author with you? And they say, no, I want to tell you about my past. And I say, your past is yesterday. Your future is what you do tomorrow. Look, I used to practice internal medicine and then one day woke up and said, I want to do networking. I didn't become help desk or network admin. I saved those roles for the people that want to focus on certifications. My first job was a senior network engineer and I was a lead architect within less than 6 months of the time I talked about it. I was a principal architect with 1.5 years experience. I was the lead architect for a bank with less than 9 months experience. But I focused on my job. I focused on finding out those key critical skills. But we have people at CDW, Apple, Terralis, AmeriHealth, PNC Bank, JP Chase, Calian, NatWest Group, Deloitte, Cloudflare, Google, and so many more companies. And many of those people had zero experience before they got hired, and many of them had zero degrees. But when they left our program, they were competent, they were capable, they were magical, and any lucky company would be lucky to hire them. Great question, Up and Up. And please ask us your questions in the chat box. That's why we're here, to help you build the best cloud computing career. Elizabeth James, cloud hired. Yes, wonderful. That's our whole point. Not ever cloud hired. That's the only reason we're here. And Up, cloud hired. Amen, and cloud hired. And Up, cloud architect. Yes, Up and Up. Menden, cloud hired, already enrolled. Menden, we love working with you and we're excited to do so. Victor, cloud hired. Jindu, always wonderful to see you, cloud hired and cloud architect. Shantez, new student. You have your CCNA books. I'm watching your videos for the last 2 weeks and reading and learning. Thanks for saving me so much money. Shantez, I've been training people in networking for decades. And when I took my CCNP 25 years ago, about then, they charged me $11,000 for the 10-day course. They wanted to charge $4,000 for the CCNA. I paid $5,000 for an MCOC. And here's the thing. I didn't want anybody to be in that position. I've seen the stuff that's on Udemy, and honestly, I think they should pay you to watch the Udemy training, and here's why. The people that are teaching it are not networking people. They don't know what they don't know. And it's gotten to the point where I see people making courses that they've never worked in. Very recently, someone in India reached out to me and said, can I train him in cloud computing? And he seemed like a nice kid. And then he says, well, I have an AWS course. And I said, you just asked me for AWS training. What about your AWS course? He says, yeah, I sell AWS training. I said, but you asked me to train you in cloud computing. He says, well, I don't know cloud computing. And I said, I won't train you unless you take down your course. And he says, why? I said, because you're training people with a skill that you don't know. When you train people with a skill you don't know, you're taking people's money, you're wasting their time. And here's the thing. The average cloud architect earns $600 a day. A good one earns $1,200 or more a day. And every day somebody wastes with that training that's out there, that's garbage training, that's taught by someone that doesn't know the career, is costing someone money. And I know not though everybody in the world can afford a $5,000 CCNA boot camp, and that's what it would cost if you took it from a Cisco or a Global Knowledge or people that were qualified to teach it. And that's why I do it completely free. I remember when I started out, I took about $40,000 of loans to do my Cisco Certified Internet Expert, which in my mind was my intro to networking. And I did that within 6 months of the time I decided to say I was going to work in networking. And I loved it. But I had a good wife that allowed me to do it. I used to practice internal medicine before that, so I could have afforded it for the most part. And then I got my first job, and my second job paid that loan off in about 6 months, and then had a bigger and better career. So Shantaz, thank you for taking the course. I'm thrilled, honored, and privileged to have you on this course, and I want to do anything I can to get you cloud hired. The CCNA wasn't I like that, and I'm not a person to recommend certifications. I'm a person to recommend skills. But the reason I like the CCNA is it's about 10 times deeper than the AWS Advanced Networking. So we use the AWS Advanced Networking as an intro to junior level networking, and then we teach the extra stuff that people need to know. Please attend that, because that boot camp's coming up soon. And the CCNA really does many more networking fundamentals. So Shantaz, I'm so happy you're there. Thanks for taking advantage of it. When you pass that exam, please tell us you passed it, because it'll make us very, very happy. Anytime we see a student success in any way, shape, or form, it makes us happy. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm thrilled to see you there. And let's get you cloud hired, Shantaz. Or network hired. Is this CCSP a good option to go from a background of network security, and how different is it compared to traditional security? Amen. And if you actually know networking security, you know security. I wouldn't waste your time with a CCSP at all. I think it's too junior and basic. I would do a CISSP instead, if you even need one. So the question is, what is your background of network security? And the reason I ask this is everybody's got different definitions. Are you dealing with things such as 802.1x authentication to make sure admission control on the network? Are you setting up QoS on the network to make sure that a worm or a virus, if it occurs, doesn't fill up the pipe, doesn't stop the voice over IP, the unified communications for videos, etc., making sure your cloud application traffic goes there? Are you dealing with encryption strategies and encryption? Meaning, are you encrypting private lines, for example? Are you dealing with encryptions on just VPN type things, etc., etc.? So there's that. Now, are you dealing with Radius, which I would assume you are, authentication servers? Or are you dealing with Active Directory services right here? Now, do you know how to write a security policy? A security architect or a network security architect does that in their jobs. Are you writing policies? Are you building training plans, for example? And you didn't say if you wanted to go to engineering or architecture. No matter what, I wouldn't waste my time on the CCSP. I would do the CISSP, because there's nothing different about cloud security than regular security. So I'd focus on the bigger picture, the highest value targets, and the most senior certifications of the bunch. So not the CCSP. Now, next, what is your experience on locking down servers? Which services are you disabling, what are you patching, etc. What knowledge do you have in designing demilitarized zones, for example? So I don't know that. Now, next, with regards to that, do you know how to lock down the systems in an end-to-end environment? Because it's kind of the same things that a network security architect would do that a security architect would do. What's your knowledge of zero trust? Now that's becoming important. What's your knowledge about training people, about anti-phishing? What's your knowledge of security frameworks? Look, you're not going to get any of that in a Ccsp. You're going to need to learn security. Now, you'll get some of that in the Cissp, but truth be told, I did the Cissp in 5 days many years ago, and the reason I did is my manager said, hey, you need to be a Cissp, and I'm like, all right, whatever. And he brought in some training, and 5 days later, I took the training from Monday through Friday, and in those days, you had to take a paper test, and it was held on a Saturday. So what happened was, they scheduled the review course 5 days before the paper test, and all 5,000 of us that were in the review course passed the Cissp because it was really, really, really basic test. Like I said, no certifications enough to actually be hired on its own. But if you have a good network security background, and that even includes authenticating your routing updates, and it includes when you're dealing with BGP, knowing which kind of routes to accept versus not accept, and you're used to all the things I described, it's not that different at all. Network security is security. So keep that in the back of your mind. It's not much different. And if you've got a good knowledge of network security, you're going to know why we're not going to be using things like AWS WAF when it really comes to security, or Microsoft's WAF equivalent, or Google's WAF equivalent. Not that they're not reasonably acceptable products, but the key is they're not adaptive to things going on. So generally, when you have a networking background and you're dealing with cloud, that's the best background, since we don't code as architects. Software development is not a good background, but that's okay. We get software people hired every day, just like we get moms and pops and people that had a non-tech career hired every day. But networking and cloud are so similar, amen. And I've been in networking for 25 years. First cloud I worked on was the Frame Relay Cloud in 1996. Around 1998, I worked on the ATM Cloud. Around 2000, I worked on the RFC 2547 BGP Cloud. Then around 2001, my team helped design the VPLS standards and worked on the VPLS Cloud. So if you've been working in networking, you've got a very, very good, strong background. Now the key is, are you working on architecture side? Or are you working on engineering side? If you're coming from engineering, you're going to have to learn architecture, which is, if you wanted to be an architect, which is putting the pieces together, designing the systems, presenting the systems, selling the systems, building business cases, negotiating large deals. And if you're on the engineering side and you want to stay on the engineering side, you're pretty much already there. Just make sure that you've got knowledge of all the other vendors' products, and you should be good to go. But I would do the Cissp. I wouldn't waste any time on the CCSP. Good question, Naaman. Chris or Charles, let's go to the next one. And please ask us your questions in the chat box. James T, we're finally able to purchase servers for the lab, but don't really know exactly what you should be doing. Price time techie, security architect. Well, if you bought the servers for our lab, you probably should have taken our course, because our course cost 1/3 of the lab. Now, I don't actually know what job you actually want is. And I don't even know, therefore, if the server was the correct thing for you. What kind of architect would you like to be? So I'm not really sure what your goals are. Let me know your actual goals, make it pretty clear for us. If you're in our course, which there's no reason for you to buy your own servers, and but you can tell us your actual goals, and then we can give you some things to do. But remember, if your goal is to be an architect, doing 1,000,001 labs on a server is the least effective way to get there. It'll never get you there, because that'll teach you the engineering side. Why do I have my students do things like building their own cloud? Well, for two reasons. One is so they understand what the technology is, and two, so they can show players they've done it. But James T, what is your actual goal? You tell me your goal, and I'll tell you how to get hired. But I'm going to tell you this right now. If you want to be an architect and your goal is to do server labs on a server, I promise you that 5 years from now, you won't be an architect. You're going to be an engineer. And I love engineers, James T. I love them, love them, love them. But engineers are hands-on techies. Architects are not. What is your actual goal career? I see security architect, but I'm not sure if you're already doing that, and I'm looking for something else. So please be clear with me on that, and I'll let you know. Can you save your voice? Yes, my voice isn't perfect, but the doctor has me on some cortisone so I can do it all week. My voice is doing better, Elaine. Thank you so much. Big Bishop Cloud hired. Good to see you, Big Bishop. Book recommendations for cloud solution architects. Well, okay, Sai, I can tell you the following. There's 4 basic networking books that I would recommend. I will tell you that if you don't want to get training, it's going to cause you at least 75,000 pages of reading, plus I'm going to recommend an MBA. Because you have to understand, this is not a hands-on tech job. This is a job where you don't touch the technology. Architects, cloud architects don't code ever, ever, ever. We don't touch the technology. We're not even allowed to in most cases. So I would say the 4 books, and again, the books that I'm going to tell you are going to cost you far more than my course. At minimum on the networking side, I would get Internet Routing Architecture from Bassam Halabi, Stevens TCP/IP, Routing TCP/IP Volumes 1 and 2 from Jeff Doyle. At minimum. And then what you need to do is learn servers and server virtualization. So from there, I'd read the VMware documentation, the KVM QEMU documentation, and a couple hundred pages of reading manufacturer's documentation. You'll understand server virtualization. Now, next on the list is containers and container orchestration. So what does that mean? It would mean that you need to go to the Kubernetes page, the Docker page, the Red Hat OpenShift page, and the VMware page and read about 500 pages on containers and container orchestration. Now, next, you need to understand storage area networks. And you're not going to get it from the cloud providers because they barely scratch the surface of what you need to know. But you could go to Dell EMC and IBM, read about 500 pages on block storage, object storage, file storage, and then poof, you'll get there. Now, next, you need to know business applications that change things. So there you're going to need to get some serious training. How do ERP applications affect the business? How does a CRM application affect the business, for example? How does unified communications affect the business? How do you optimize the supply chain? And all that stuff you're going to need to know. A couple thousand pages, you're going to have to do your research there. Now, next on databases, you need to understand them. That means reading the documentation from MySQL, the Oracle documentation. It means reading the Microsoft SQL documentation, the MongoDB documentation, the Apache Cassandra documentation, the Postgres documentation, at minimum, a couple thousand pages there, and you'll be good to go. Then we could train you and you won't have to worry about this. Now, when you're done that, you need to understand security appliances. So, you could read a CISSP book as an introduction, the one from the ISC squared. That'll be an introduction. Now you're over $300 worth of books so far. And we haven't even touched the main skills of the cloud architect. Now here you can get most of this free. Afterwards, you can go to the Fortinet website, the Palo Alto website, the Cisco website, Checkpoint website, and for about another 500 pages to 1,000 pages, guess what? You'll learn next generation firewalls, demilitarized zone design, etc. Now, when you're done that, you just realized I just gave you the tech part of the program. And nobody gets hired as an architect by learning the tech. That's what engineers get hired for, not architects. So you really next are going to need an MBA plus certain business things where you can take our training. So what is it you need to know? You must know how to build a business case to convince the customer that your $100 million solution is worth it because it's going to deliver $300 million of business value. And if you can't do that, you can't do the job. Now, next, you're going to be presenting at conferences. You're going to be presenting to executives, engineers, management teams. You need to get some presentation skills training. Like I said, again, you can do this, spend $3,000 to $5,000 for some good presentation skills training. Speakeasy and Jerry Weissman were 2 people that I've always recommended. I don't know if Jerry Weissman's still coaching. But, that'll give you some of it. Now, if you're not with us, you're going to need some leadership skills training. You'll get half of them in an MBA program, but it's not going to be enough. The MBA program doesn't have you teach you the soft skills. They don't teach you how to deal with difficult conversations. They don't teach you any of those things. So you're going to need some good leadership training as well. Again, you're going to deal with $3,000 to $5,000 minimum for that. We could take our course, which is $700, and you'll be there. Now, when you get beyond that, you're going to have to learn how to sell. There's no way that you could do this job because our job is design, present, and sell. We don't touch the technology. So you can take our course where we teach you to sell, or you could take like a Dale Carnegie course. He's not teaching it, but his people are on how to sell. That'll get you the next step. Now you got to remember, you're going to have to build large teams and deal with people with challenging personalities. So you're going to need high levels of soft skills and emotional intelligence. I took, literally speaking, plus $50,000 plus a training back because it's critical. We teach that, but if you're not with us, you're going to have to buy some like Daniel Goleman type courses or emotional intelligence training courses. Again, it's going to be a couple $1,000s for the week because you need to do that. Now, beyond that, your executive presence and CXO relevancy cost me and my team, the people that paid for it, at least $10,000 for executive presence training. Or you could take my course. See, the reason I put together my course was to help people that couldn't afford the $50,000 plus training to build these elite crowd careers. And I've got students earning $300,000 a year as graduates. Not all of them. It's not super common. If they've had some tech experience, we're getting it constantly. People in Australia, for example, people in the US, people in Canada, but they have the right skills. So you got to remember that's the key difference between an engineer and an architect. An engineer is a hands-on techie that codes. Architects don't touch the technology, so it's our ability to design, present, and sell a solution. Our ability to, after we go talk to a customer and they've got $1 billion architecture that they need us to design, to go back to our company, reach out to the executives of our company and say, I need a cloud security architect. I need a cloud IAM architect. I need a storage architect. I need a big data architect. I need 10 cloud engineers, 3 Devops engineers as part of my team to design and do this proof of concept. And it's going to be up to you to sell your management and convince them to give you those resources, which might cost the company $30, $40, $50 million to give you those resources to design and build that design and proof of concept, that architecture. So that's why this is a business job. And when I train my architects, and all of them are getting 6-figure jobs for the most part, they're all in the same place. They came to us thinking it was a tech job. This is not a techie job. This is an executive job. It's director level or VP level in most companies. And that's why people have gotten it wrong. That's why I came out of retirement to do this. It's not about configuring tech. We don't configure tech. We don't touch it. We design it, present it, and sell it. And I like to call that the cloud architect skills mismatch, because everybody's thinking they can get it into a book. So you buy a book, right? Now, how do you present that information? Who's going to coach you on your presentation skills? Nobody hands an architect a piece of paper and says, build this. We have to find out from the customer their business challenges, their business pain points, their goals. And that's why it's so critical to do this. We don't do it anymore, but in 1 year, I traveled over 200,000 miles on just a single airline, and another 100,000 miles on other airlines, meeting with clients and entertaining clients, playing golf with clients, taking to dinners and drinks and giving presentations. Now we don't have to travel anywhere near that bad because of unified communications and messaging. But that's the key. That's our job. It's not a hands-on techie job. So train with us, or make sure you get these business skills, because I promise you, without them, no one will have any interest. Why? I've interviewed thousands and thousands and thousands of potential architects. Now, what if I told you that a director from AWS came and spoke to one of my classes and said, thank God we love you guys for this reason. Everybody else is teaching configuration and helping people learn architecture, but you teach architecture, the business part, the sales skills, the soft skills, the communication skills. Now, next, like architects don't do proof of concepts, they have cloud engineers do proof of concepts. Now the next piece, at least real architects, the next piece of this is understanding the business points and business goals. So how are you communicating with those clients? Once you've got those requirements, how do you build that team? How do you build a business case to show that customer? So no matter what you do, make sure you get these skills. Make sure you get the communication skills, leadership skills, sales skills. Now, if I told you that 2 weeks ago, the chief information officer and a chief technology officer and a CEO of a company said, Mike, we tried to hire one of your architects, but he didn't take the job. We need many more like them. We don't want hands-on techies. We don't want people to touch the technology. Our enterprise architects never touch the technology. They only do business stuff. Our cloud architects still don't touch the technology, but we'd like this, this, and this in them. Now, what if I told you a few weeks ago that one of my students who just got hired without a college degree, he was told, or even a high school diploma, was told by the hiring manager, I need a salesperson with the technical skills to back it up. I need a sales guy in a lab coat, were the exact words that he used. What if I tell you that every week when I speak to hiring managers, they say, I don't want another engineer. I love my engineers to do my engineering, but for my architects, I need business executives. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. We architects don't have something that's a textbook skill that you're going to book. It's a soft, amorphous job. It's going in there and capturing an audience and building relationships. Anthony Gonzalez, so happy to see I'm feeling better. You're excited for this week, Cloud Heart? I'm super excited too, Anthony. Daniel Heron, good to see you, Cloud Heart. Michael, if someone wants to be a cloud engineer, what path would you suggest? And it's the DevOps part of the journey. Michael, do you want to be a cloud engineer or a DevOps engineer? They're two different people's careers. So if you would tell me which one you want to be, I would be very grateful, because then I can tell you how to get there. But you're putting two careers in the same job. When you try to do two careers at the same time, you fail at both because you're not good enough at anything. So tell me, Michael, exactly whether you want to be a cloud engineer or a DevOps engineer. And from there, I'll be able to guide you. But I need to know your actual goal. Is there any upcoming training for the Ccsp? No, I won't be doing any upcoming training for the Ccsp because I don't think it's a certification that's worth doing. When people come tell me and they say, I want to do this, I say, please don't do this. Get the Cissp instead. So we will never do training for a course that we don't believe in. I don't see it helping you in any way, shape, or form. Is our course recorded or live training? It's a combination. Now, we do 3 live sessions per week in our main programs. So 3 live sessions per week. And that means they're on Zoom so we can talk. You know, my architect classes, all of the students design an architecture based upon business requirements from me. They will work together as groups to design it. In the end of the class, they'll present it and sell it back to me just like they would in real life. And that way I can advise and tune my students in real time, improve their presentation skills, sales skills, leadership skills. And then we do 2 architecture classes and 1 business skill class every week. Now, amen, in between classes, we have a tremendous amount of recorded videos, career planning. And what happens, the student will watch a video, they'll do a homework assignment, they'll turn it in, and they'll get feedback on their homework. And by doing that, guess what? We can make them better every step of the way. Now, of course, there's a lab module of our training too, which is done on your own time. Look, we do 25 labs on AWS or so and 25 on Azure. Look, nobody's getting hired from doing labs on the cloud things as a cloud architect. But you have to be able to tell the employer you've done it, and potentially there's some learning along the way. Now, we have real labs that are part of our program, which will get you hired, for example. While everybody else is worried about doing some project on Git, which architects don't do, our students will actually design and build their own cloud in our data center. And that way, when everybody else is like, I set up an S3 bucket, our students can roar like a lion, I built a cloud. Big difference. And our students will work with all the technologies they migrate to the cloud, such as server virtualization, containers and container orchestration. Our students will be building Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP stacks. My students will be building file servers, server message block for Windows, NFS for Linux. My students will be building firewalls and VPN concentrators. My students will learn true identity and access management by building Microsoft Active Directory servers. And of course, my students build the cloud. So there's 3 modules to our course. Work in between classes, which are done via video and assignments that our students turn in and we give them feedback on. The live training and the hands-on tech projects. That's how our courses work. Collins, Cloud President Mike Gibbs, thank you so much, Collins. You always have the nicest things to say. Cloud Security Architect, I think it's going to be great for you. Alexandros, Cloud Hired, so good to see you. Yasu. Amanda, you're trying to avoid code. Any advice? Don't become an engineer, become a cloud architect or a solution architect. We don't ever code, ever. I've been an architect for 25 years. I don't know how to code. Why? Because I'm an architect. I'm not an engineer. And that's really the thing a man does. In order to get hired, you have to train the skills for your job versus somebody else's job. I hate to tell you that I've done 5,000 interviews. Actually, I've done 1,000 AWS interviews last year, 5,000 of other things beforehand. And every time I interview someone for an architect job, you know what they don't know? Architecture. They don't know anything about system design, which is all about how systems work. They know how to configure, which is somebody else's job. I can't hire an architect that knows how to configure if they don't understand how to design. They all tell me about their Python skills, and I'm like, great, but we don't write code as architects. Can't hire you for that. They all want to tell me they took some horrible sysops course, and I'd say, remove that from your resume, because if that's on your resume, shows you as the maintenance person, and I definitely can't hire you. They've studied Devops, which is, again, not a skill for the architect. It's a skill for DevOps engineering careers. So pick a career that you don't need to code. In tech sales, you don't need to code. In tech sales people, I know tech sales people that earn between $200 and $1 million a year, some more than that. No coding there. Technical program management, guess what? No coding there. Cloud architecture, network architecture, enterprise architecture, security architecture, no coding there. So stay away from engineering and take some of these other roles. These other roles paid more than engineering anyway, so don't code. I don't code. I refuse to code. I refuse to. To me, coding I'd rather be waterboarded than have to code. To me, that's less of a torture situation. But then again, I have a martial arts background, but you won't ever catch me coding. If somebody asked me to do coding, I'd go back to practicing internal medicine, which I used to do before I became an architect 25 years ago. Great question. Let's go to another. Dorian, yes, we've updated the content for the brand new exam. Absolutely. Elizabeth James, you watched our interview session last week. It was awesome. Your question is, how do you know he is ready for the job interviews? I want to try, but don't want to be embarrassed on YouTube. Well, Elizabeth, when you can attend one of my classes and design, present, and sell the solution back to me, you're ready. You're ready. Or many people tried that weren't ready and found out they weren't ready. But here's the thing. It's better to try and find out and then learn that you need to fill in the gaps on XYZ thing than it is to just be afraid. So Elizabeth, I encourage you to try next time. Try again and try again and trying again. But you'll be fine. James T, we've got plenty of students successful without the live classes and watching the recordings. We had someone recently in Australia get close to a $300,000 job that couldn't attend any of our classes. We've got lots of people. Now, James T, I'm going to tell you this. I strongly recommend taking the live classes. The live classes and all those other perks that come with it are well worth it. For example, I'd recommend returning that server, which you spent God knows how much money on, and apply that towards taking the live classes and using our server. So kind of keep that. But Ivan Tamba was only able to take some of the live classes, not many of them, and he's working at AWS. We've had lots of people in Australia and New Zealand get hired, and they couldn't take a lot of the classes when we didn't have the basic program, which is why we did it. We have plenty of students that work full-time and couldn't attend the live classes and still get hired full-time. But I strongly recommend you take the class if you're able to. And I'd probably return the server that you bought, because our training costs less than the server. We'll get you hired, and then we can actually tell you what you need to learn for the job and make sure you do it and make sure you're capable. And then you could leverage our network to get hired. Help us build your brand, help us tune your resume, and give you the skills that you need. But if you're not in the live classes, you can just watch the recordings of the live classes plus the pre-recorded courses. But I strongly suggest taking the live classes when possible. But we've gotten people hired in every country in the world that have just done the basic classes. And at least half of the people that take the basic classes say, oh my God, I should have bought the live classes, and they upgrade to the live classes later, which we also allow. And it's not like people buy courses twice, they just pay the upgrade fee. But we've got all of our students that want to be successful are successful. All of our students that follow the plan and do the work are successful. We just know what to do, and we're experts at getting people to do there. Alex, all these sessions are great. It's a shame I hadn't come across your cloud hired 9 months ago when you started your journey. However, you're unique worldwide, so keep going. We're there, Alex, and we are ready to retrain you. We retrain people to take the cloud computing master's programs, the cloud computing degree programs, and the people that take those cloud computing programs, those certifications in Australia. 90% of our people come from there, and we completely retrain them. They're teaching people how to be cloud administrators, and we teach people how to become cloud architects. So, wish you joined us 9 months ago, but that's okay. We'll do anything we can to help you get to your goals. Aaron, should you limit yourself to getting a BSD in cloud computing? I wouldn't get a degree in cloud computing ever. Or should we get a computer science degree and then later start our career in the cloud? Aaron, I've been working in tech for 25 years. I don't have any degrees in tech, I'm going to tell you that right now, and that's been helpful to me. And here's why. When you get a computer science degree, they teach you generic stuff, which in many cases is going to be completely unrelated to the job you do. The reason we have to retrain everyone that took a bachelor's or master's degree in cloud computing or career science is the following reasons. They are trained on everybody else's job, at least in the cloud architect space. So cloud architects don't code, they don't configure. And what gets on in most of these bachelor's degrees? Elemental stuff about theoretical things and a bunch of hands-on configuration. What do cloud architects do? They don't do any elemental things, and they don't do hands-on configuration. They design, present, and sell a solution. I tell people that when they ask me what degrees I should get, I say get a business degree. And here's why. A business degree will teach you more about communication, written communication. It'll teach you more about the things that are necessary to do in these more elite jobs. And then I would take training to learn computing. Now, it comes from where I'm at. There's basically one program in the entire country that teaches networking, one university, and when we interview the students, they don't know networking. I was actually going to teach at a university, and they were all senior professors. And they said, well, Mike, teach us how to subnet as an interview. If I told you that fundamental concept that if you can't do in your head, you can't do any jobs in tech for the most part, not a single one of them in the whole program knew that. And I was going to train them and try and revamp the curriculum. And they're like, yeah, but we like our theory. And I said, what percentage of your students are getting hired? And they're like, not many. I said, why don't we go from theory to reality? They said, look, we have to provide a well-rounded, balanced education, blah, 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 blah. And I said, not me. I want to get my students hired and I want to change their lives. So I wouldn't limit myself to any degree in tech. My degrees are in healthcare and in business. I've got an MBA, master's degree in nursing as a nurse practitioner. And I'll tell you that I earned more in my first year of tech than anybody that I worked with 5 or 10 years experience. And you know the thing, Aaron? The reason is I had trained in emotional intelligence skills in healthcare. I had trained in communication skills in healthcare. I had trained in learning how to learn in healthcare because in healthcare we're constantly doing research. I had been training in systems theory. How does one system affect another system? My first job in tech was a senior network engineer. I was a lead architect by the end of 6 months. Within 9 months, I was designing the systems on Wall Street, the largest market maker on all of the NASDAQ. And a year and a half later, I was a principal architect, consulting at one of the world's bigger technology companies. But I had no computer science degrees. Most of the people that I worked with didn't have degrees in tech. They had psychology degrees and business degrees. Now, of course, they were the people that had the master's degree in tech, but they typically had the bottom jobs where they were coding and configuring. So the real question, Aaron, is what job would you actually like? Then let's figure out what the right training and education is. But I appreciate your question, and shukran for asking. So tell me what your goal is, then I can tell you what you should do. But I recommend business degrees over tech degrees any day of the week. Min-win, what am I looking for in a good resume? Min-win, could you tell me the career? Because every resume is something different. Tell me the career win-win, and I can tell you what I'm looking for in a good resume. Until that point, Chris, let's go to the next question. There's one where people are confusing what architects do and engineers, and they've got a list of job skills that aren't related to the architect's job at all. Collins, you're seriously waiting for the AWS training coming tomorrow? Me too. It's going to be a fun party time. I love to teach, and I love people that like to learn. So I'm excited to see you there tomorrow. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Spread the word. Look, we're doing this completely free to help others that needed it the most. We started making our training free for two reasons. One was a couple of years ago, I was working with a good friend, Banjika, and we were spreading free training to Cameroon, where he was doing some relief work. Then I started working with my good friend, Alphonse Chang, or Samoa, as he likes to use his name, and more sub-Saharan Africa work. But, I saw the training that was out there by the certification providers, and I couldn't get behind any of it. So I decided to make our training free for the entire world. And I'm honored and privileged to do it. And we are very, very excited to have you here tomorrow. Amen. And yes, cloud architects don't code. The content for the solution architect should have networking, storage. There is no scripting in our jobs. So we do pre-sales as architects. We don't perform proof of concepts. We have bring in cloud engineers to do proof of concepts. That's why you need such good leadership skills. Amen. And I have never done a proof of concept in my entire 25 years of architecture, meaning hands-on. Now, I have led more proof of concepts that you can imagine. How do I do it? After I meet with the customer, I bring in a team of engineers. Now, I have to have really good sales skills and leadership skills to go to the management of my organization and say, I need to do a 16-week proof of concept. I need 14 cloud engineers to do it. I need a DevOps engineer to do it. I need a database administrator to do it. I need 3 web developers to do it. And I need this, and this. They do it. That's why you need leadership skills. But no, solution architects do not code or configure. Now, we don't touch the network. We design the network. We design it. We are basically coordinators of multiple resources. No one person ever designs a real architecture. In fact, most of my life, every major architecture I worked on took 16 to 50 people to design it. And it was my job to lead the architecture. Now, to be fair, I don't waste my time on small $1 million architectures. I've never done anything that small. But even still, the people working on those small $1 million architectures, they're still working on bringing in a bunch of people to do it. The architect's job is to design, present, and sell, and they get paid for it. If the architect is focusing on the tech, they lose the ability to transform their customer systems. They can't focus on the tech. Amen. I'm going to make it real clear for you. Tonight, I want you to go out. I want you to go look at the sun, the moon, and the stars. There's no sun. Look at the moon, the stars, the clouds. That's our job. That's our job, to focus on the big picture and optimize it. Now, if you, tonight, just to see what it feels like to be an engineer versus an architect, take out binoculars or a telescope and zoom in so you only see parts of the moon. You might see the moon's made out of cheese. You're going to see craters. You're going to see all kinds of pretty stuff on the moon. But you know what you won't see? The sky. The second an architect focuses on any one piece of anything, they lose focus on the big picture, and all digital transformation is stopped. And I'm going to tell you, I've seen more cloud architects fired and solution architects fired for trying to do engineering and do things like this. This is simply not our job. I can get somebody to write a script for me across the world and pay them $10 an hour, not the $100 an hour or $200 an hour that we're paying for a cloud architect to do it. And if you focus on doing these things, you will not have a career that lasts very long. So we design the networking, the data center, the storage solutions. We don't script ever. Now let's talk about a consultant that's post-sales, meaning like the ones that work at JP Chase, all those that we've studied. Now, they still design, present, and sell just like any other architecture, but they're not working for AWS and selling you their stuff. They're working for the big bank like JP Chase. So what do? Well, they go ask the executives, what are your business goals and pain points and goals? And then they figure out what kind of technology can help them do it. And then they still build a team of all the engineers and architects together. They design the solution, they document the solution, and what do? They go present it back to senior management and try and get budget to go so the engineering team can go build out their solution. And that's the difference between an engineer and an architect. You're thinking cloud engineers, but that's not what cloud architects or solution architects do. And no, we don't do proof of concepts. We lead proof of concepts and lead engineers to do it. But we always do them. But you know what we do, A-Maker? We respond to a lot of RFIs, RFPs, and RFQs. We attend lots of meetings. We entertain our clients. We go to lots of conferences. We sell a lot. We negotiate a lot. We manage a lot of people in a lot of different places. That's what we do. And if you don't have those skills, you're still an engineer. Oh, I love engineers. Engineers take what we design and bring it to real life. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. We also negotiate a lot of deals. And whether it's negotiating a higher salary or negotiating $1 billion deal, I've had to do both. And my architects are trained for both as part of our training. Those are the skills of the architect, not engineering like you're describing. Emmanuel, how you live in Europe for cloud architecture? Well, Emmanuel, I'm going to make it very clear. Every job wants 10 years experience. And yet, I got one with 0, and they wanted 10 years experience for that. I can tell you that Jennifer got hired recently. Jennifer was a wonderful mental health tech. She recently got hired. Van Tamba got hired with 0 years experience. I will tell you, Coyote got hired with zero experience or background. I will tell you that I'm thinking Jasmine, but our Jermaine got hired, and his last job was selling landscaping gear. I could tell you that Balwinder was a stay-at-home mom, and she got hired by Microsoft as a cloud solution. I could give you example after example, but just to let you know, all jobs want 10 years of experience. But you know what they really want? They want competency. If I told you that I interviewed 5,000 people in my professional career, and you know what, Emmanuel? I couldn't get hired by anyone. I couldn't hire anyone. And the reason I couldn't hire anyone was as follows. Everybody knew everybody else's job, but none actually knew their own. So when it really comes down to it, and Emmanuel, I've asked hiring managers, thousands of them for the last 20 years, what do you want? They say, I want someone that can actually do the job. I don't want a paper certification person. I want someone that knows how to do the job, meaning competency. Competency matters over experience all the time. Next, they tell me they want someone they can trust. Now, after that, they tell us they want someone that knows what they know and knows what they don't know, so they don't make big mistakes. Then they tell us they're looking for someone energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about the tech. After that, they tell us they want someone that can bring out the best in others with regards to their emotional intelligence. After that, they tell us they want someone with stellar communication skills. Do you know what else they tell me? They want someone that's willing to go above and beyond. So let me tell you, don't be out there on TikTok quiet quitting, which I don't assume you would be. And then they tell someone that's a good team player. That's what they want. So think of architecture in this African proverb in the same sentence. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Engineering, you may do it yourself. Architecture is a team sport. We have to participate in teams. So don't worry about your background. Get the right training, and you can do anything. Anything. Besides, a lot of times when we have to retrain people that have a big engineering background, they actually struggle more than the people with no background. And here's the reason. They're so focused on the tech. When in reality, they need to be focused on the transformation. That's what we do as architects, digital transformation. How do we improve a customer's business performance with technology? So if your focus is in the business, ding, 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 you're going to get paid more, promoted, and rise to the top. You'll be a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 architect. If your focus is on the tech, you'll be relegated to cloud engineering or the lowest paid people in the world. Because how can you transform a business if all your focus is tech? Chris, let's go to the next one. Sir, is it true that last quarter we'll have less openings for jobs? Up and up. I'm the future. I'm worried about future job hiring. Hiring trends to slow around the holidays by far, and the economy is getting weaker. I'm getting to the point that I'm getting ready to stop recommending cloud engineering careers until I feel better about the future for cloud engineers. And here's the reason why. in a recession, and we're pretty much in a global recession right now, you can still get hired. But who do companies hire during a recession? They hire salespeople. They hire business development people. They hire architects and solution architects and cloud architects that bring money into the organization. What do they fire or get rid of? They get rid of back-end developers. They get rid of back-end engineers. They get rid of some marketing people or anything that costs the company money. Now, we can't really get rid of the engineers, so what do? They outsource engineering jobs to parts of the world where it's much, much cheaper than it would be in the US, the UK, or Europe. So that's why I'm, not in a position where I'm recommending any engineering careers. Right now, I'm only focusing on architecture careers and things that actually are focused on bringing in money into organizations. Because for me, I don't want to teach a course where my students aren't going to get hired. So I'm not recommending engineering careers for the short to midterm distance. And we won't be selling any cloud engineering courses for the short or midterm instance too, because I don't want to sell something where I don't think people can get hired. I'm only concerned that people get hired. So yes, I think the global economy and hiring trends tend to slow down around the holidays, but I think so many of you can build brilliant careers. But like they said in Jerry Maguire, show me the money. Well, guess what? Cloud architects, solution architects, sales reps, business development managers, they're all about showing the company the money. The engineers, no matter how critical they are, and I love the engineers, they bring our stuff to life, cost the company money. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. B-Spence, you plan on taking cloud security architecture. Is there anything before you take the course? B-Spence, we prefer you come with nothing. If you have something great, if you don't have anything great too. If you don't have anything great, guess what? Any background great, you have no bad habits. I can start you from scratch. If you've got experience, I can work with that experience too. See, as soon as somebody joins, we have them build a career plan, and our team helps them on that plan. And that career plan is going to be unique for everybody that's part of our program. And here's the reason why. The path for you is going to be different than the path for somebody else. So if you take our course, you'll come in, you'll notice some of the first videos or tell me about yourself. Why? Well, that's the first question in a job interview. So we're building your job interview competency on the first day you sign up with us. But also, kind of keep this in the back of your mind, we're going to be focusing very hard on building your plan, a plan that's going to work for you and your goals to make sure you get cloud hired. Because I don't want anybody that comes to my program not to get hired in the end. Look, we're not a certification course. I don't make a course that's pure recorded content and sell it, make it once and sell it to many. Look, that's the way to make money. We are about changing lives and getting our students hired. And I am viciously concerned. Chris is viciously concerned. Everybody on my team is focused on getting our students cloud hired. And almost every night we get to share a new cloud hired story, me and my C-level team, my executive team. And it's like the party of a lifetime for us. So B-Spence would be honored and privileged to work with you. And I can't wait until you're cloud hired too. But no prerequisites for us whatsoever. What percentage of the architect job involves traveling? I would tell you in the old days, it was at least 50% traveling. In today's world, probably 10 to 20%. But I will tell you that 50% of your day will be in meetings. And those meetings could be buying lunches and dinners and drinks on the corporate credit card. It could be meetings and conferences. It could be meetings coordinating an engineering team to do a proof of concept. It could be meetings with other architects to design something to either help them or they help you. Meetings galore, I'll tell you that. But traveling, it also depends where you're at. So if you're in, say, London or New York or San Francisco or Atlanta or a major metropolitan area where there's a lot of business, then you're not going to be traveling constantly. But if you chose to be like me and live in Palm Beach, Florida, which I lived at for a while, well, there's no Fortune 100 companies headquartered in Florida. So if you try to live someplace else, like, there's times where I lived in my house in Greece and worked from home. If I work from my home in my house in Greece, guess what? I'm going to be traveling because there's just not that much business to do in Greece. If I lived in Paris, sure, but that's not where my family's house is. It's in Greece. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Great question, world news and current affairs. Chindu, thank you for highlighting the difference between both tech and executive roles. That's why I'm so happy to do it, Chindu, because I hate to see it. I see the most dangerous advice being given to people that want to be solution architects. They tell them to take Devops, which is not our job. They tell them to take, what's this horrible thing, certification? Cloud developer and SysOps. Now, SysOps is maintenance, which is exactly the opposite of what architects do. Cloud architects don't develop, and we sure don't do DevOps. So the key is, why is it hard for people to get jobs? They don't have the right skills, and that's why I want people to know exactly the skills. You know the skills, you know what the hiring manager is needing, you're going to get cloud hired, Chindu. And I live to get people cloud hired. I want to make sure that anybody that wants a cloud computing job can get it. And part of that's by providing the best training in the world. But part of that is keeping people in focus on what they should learn versus what they should not learn. Chris or Chow, we can go to the next one. Michael, you want to be a cloud engineer. After getting the cloud practitioner, you're contemplating between the solution architect or the SysOps. Okay, Michael, unless your goal is to be the maintenance person, do not do a SysOps certification ever. It's the one that I beg people not to take. I can't honestly see why anybody would do it. It's the lowest paid of any technology specialization, and the jobs aren't any easier to get anyway. So I definitely wouldn't do SysOps for any reason, unless you just want to sit behind a desk and just create user accounts and do maintenance. But you said cloud engineering. So if you have the cloud practitioner cert, the next certification I would do straight is the Certified Solution Architect Professional. Why this? Because that's really a cloud admin / cloud engineering certification. So Michael, I would say that. Now Michael, if you are in the US, the UK, or Europe, I would strongly consider an architecture career. If by your name you are in Africa, if you are in India or Pakistan, or some part of the developing world like Greece, where I'm from, then I'm thinking, engineering could be great for you, because I see a lot of engineering work going there. Now, if you want to be an engineer, don't waste your time with a bunch of useless certifications. Go straight from that cloud practitioner to the Certified Solution Architect Professional. It's not that much harder than the cloud practitioner. The cloud practitioner and the Certified Solution Architect Associate are pretty much the same course. So go straight from the associate to the professional. Now, next, if you want to be a cloud engineer, you must learn Linux. So get some good, strong, hands-on experience with Linux. Learn to administer Linux, both Red Hat or CentOS, same thing. Oracle Linux, same thing. AWS Linux, same thing. As well as Ubuntu Linux, because it's the most common Linux on the cloud. Really get to understand and learn how to lock it down, remove packages, install packages, edit configuration files, both with things like Nano, but also if you ever have to use VI or Vim, those kind of things. I'd learn how to write a bash script if I wanted to be a cloud engineer. Now, I would also, if I was a cloud engineer, know that I'm going to be doing a lot of automation, and I'm going to need to be very good at Python scripting as a cloud engineer. Now, if I'm going to be a cloud engineer, I'm going to be dealing with a lot of infrastructure as code. Things like CloudFormation templates, toss them in the trash. There's no point to ever evolve them, and here's the reason why. Most customers are multiple clouds, and CloudFormation templates, the Microsoft equivalent, they're proprietary nonsense. Keep it out of your career. But if you're going to be a cloud engineer, you will be using Terraform constantly, infrastructure as code constantly, and I strongly encourage you to get there. So for the cloud engineer, again, it's not a career where certifications are going to get you there. Get the professional, because that'll help you get an interview. Now, as a cloud engineer, I would build yourself a cloud, like we would teach you to do if you were in our program. But if not, build yourself a cloud on somebody's server somewhere. Work with Active Directory. Work by learning how to set up file servers on virtual machines. Learn how to write some beautiful Python scripts and bash shell scripting. Get hands-on on Windows as well, especially Windows Server, Windows Active Directory, and of course, build yourself a cloud. These are the kind of skills on Terraform. Infrastructure as code everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. That's what's going to help you, Michael, become a great cloud engineer. Now, DevOps is another career for software developers that want to become DevOps engineers, and that's what I wanted to be crisp on your career. Now, the Kubernetes you'll be working on, yes, DevOps engineers do that too, but you're going to need to know Kubernetes as well. But the Linux is critical, the Terraform is critical, and yes, DevOps engineers do that, but DevOps people are very different. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. It's a totally different career. That's why I asked the question. So straight to the professional, learn those skills that I told you, and get yourself cloud hired, Michael. Cleon, this is Leonard from Cameroon. Which cert would you advise me to take first? Cleon, I generally tell people to start with the Certified Solution Architect Associate. Now, I will also tell you that we even have a video in which my team can put why you should avoid the cloud practitioner. Now, Cleon, there are times where I actually teach the cloud practitioner, and here's what I'm doing. So, for example, AWS has provided people in Africa an opportunity to do the cloud practitioner for free with free vouchers. So me and my friend Alphonse Shang and Banjika and Aqua and all my other friends that are doing work in Africa, if someone actually has the opportunity to do the cloud practitioner first, we're starting our students on the cloud practitioner. Why? It gives us a chance to teach the Certified Solution Architect Associate, not the cloud practitioner, and then those people can go take the cloud practitioner exam and pass it easily, completely free. Now, Cleon, next, once you pass the certification exam, AWS gives you 50% off the next one. So for the people that are getting the free certification credits in Africa, like the group we're working with in Cameroon with our Cloud Heroes Africa, as well as the War Fund Group, then it's a chance to do a Certified Solution Architect Professional for $150 US, which is still a lot of money for people in Cameroon, but it's half the cost of doing it the exam. Now, if you're in a position where the first course you could take is, say, Certified Solution Architect Associate, skip that cloud practitioner and go straight to the professional. We only recommend the cloud practitioner only under the circumstances that someone's getting it for free, and it would be hard for them to buy a certification to any other course. So keep that in the back of your mind. Start with the associate if that's feasible for you. If you've got a free voucher, train for the associate and go past the cloud practitioner. It's a nothing exam. It's a basic exam. It horrified me that certification providers are charging $9.99 for a cloud practitioner bootcamp. We do our Certified Solution Architect Associate bootcamp for free. Clay on TV, that may be my strong recommendation. And I don't know why. I think I remember telling you that you lived in Cyprus at one point, which is real close to where I'm from. And if that's the case, pretty cool. That's pretty terrific. I don't know why I have that in my head for some reason. But if you're in Cyprus, let me know. And if you're in Cameroon, let me know that too. Kenyatta. Hi, Mike. Is your course alone with your guidance sufficient enough to attain a cloud architect role? Of course it is. My students do it every single day. Or would you need additional training? No, we don't have training where you would have to buy additional training and additional training. That's not who we are. That's the certification providers that want to sell you a certification that'll just do and then tell you need this course and this course and this course, and that's what you're hired. If you do our training, follow our instructions, and listen to us, you will not need to do anything outside of our program to get hired. Anything. Oh, Cleon says, yes, I live in Cyprus. I do have a good memory. I knew for some reason, I remembered that you were in Cyprus. I knew you were from Cameroon living in Cyprus. We also have a Henry Ayo. He's obviously Nigerian with that name. And he also lives in Cyprus. But I'm going to tell you right now, Kenyatta, the people that take our course and then go do some certification stuff with some other people and then they come back, they struggle. And they struggle a lot. Why? Because they've got somebody else's training that was never an architect in the first place. They need to learn a different set of skills, and then we need to retrain them. I'll give you an example with Daniel Bosu. I love Daniel Bosu. He's the son I always wanted. I'm going to make that very clear to you. He came to us. He'd wasted $35,000 on some horrible boot camp that was supposed to help him level up and get hired. He came to me and said, I've been on interviews and no one will talk to me. I interviewed him, and he didn't have any skills necessary to get hired. He then told me that he spent $35,000 on this boot camp. And I was so sad we figured out a way. He happened to win a contest to our training. First thing that he did is took somebody else's training, and he says, look who, Mike, I passed a certified solution architect professional. I said, we gave you a scholarship and you did that? And he said, yes, I'm ready to get cloud hired. Can I call your friends? And I said, no. I said, come to class and I'll interview you. What he learned was cloud administration. He knew nothing of architecture. And I said, now, Daniel, what you got to do is you got to start from scratch again. You got to go to lesson 1 and you got to forget all that stuff you just learned. And he said, huh? I said, you were just taught all the skills of somebody else's job. If you do those skills in real life, you'll be fired on your first day. So it's time to start from scratch. Daniel took my course, followed my course exactly, and got hired. I got to tell you, Delroy Bat took my course, and that's all he did and got hired. Coyote took my course and got hired. Yvonne took my class and got hired. Jermaine only took my class and got hired. So I got to tell you this, either we get people that took a certification course and we have to make them forget all that they learned and then retrain them, or what we do is we train people in our program. There is nothing to buy outside of our program. Only what you need to do, it's all included in there at the lowest price we can possibly afford it, which is pretty much our cost to run the program. Why? I don't need to work. This is something I did to kind of rescue the world and give people the abilities to get hired and earn salaries they could never dream about in them before. And most of our students are between $120,000 and $300,000 a year. We've had a bunch of $275,000 to $300,000 roles for people that have been in tech for a little while. And we've got a bunch of people that are new to tech that are earning between $120,000 and $160,000 as their first job. But guess what? It's a big raise from where they were at. Rejected records. Is a cloud architect the same as a solution architect? Now, at AWS, they have their own version of a cloud architect, which is not a solution architect. But everywhere else, here's the difference. A solution architect is, I work at Cisco, and I only sell you Cisco stuff. Design, present, and sell Cisco stuff. Or I work at Juniper, and I only do Juniper stuff. Or I work at AWS, and I only sell you AWS stuff. A cloud architect works with multiple clouds, and it's more the real job that people do. An OpenStack or Nutanix cloud in the data center, plus the AWS cloud, plus the Azure cloud. So a solution architect needs extra training to work as a cloud architect, but cloud architects can take a solution architect jobs any day of the week. So keep that in the back of your mind. That's the difference between a cloud architect and a solution architect. Only know AWS, you're a solution architect. Know AWS, Azure, Google, OpenStack, Nutanix, you're a cloud architect. Be able to design across 3. So cloud architects really help customers with much more stability, availability, security, and business continuity planning. What's the next step after getting certified? Getting the skills necessary for your job. Remember, none of the skills are covered in certification. So Cleon TV, I don't know if you told me which career you wanted, for me then to tell you what you need to do next. So Chris, let's go to the next one. Elaine, I'm doing the best I can to save my voice. And yes, we teach how to negotiate a salary in our course. Must be there. A&E just asked me the most dangerous question I've ever heard in my entire life. We probably should address it. The one before that. You heard it's best to know more than 2 cloud services. In other words, Luna and Google and AWS is self-defeating. Well, AAE, that's taught by people that obviously don't know what the cloud is. The reason this is some of the most dangerous advice that we had is you can't learn the cloud if you expect to work in the cloud. Wait, what did Mike say? You can't learn the cloud if you want to work in the cloud? Now, as an architect, what do? We take that stuff from the network and the data center to the cloud. Now, what is the cloud? It's nothing more than another network and data center. So if you know one cloud and you know it for real, you actually know them all. Now, there's 2 ways you can learn. There's what I call the way to never get hired, which is you do a certification and you learn the name of a service and how to configure it. And guess what? When somebody asks you to design a migration plan to take their stuff from the data center to the cloud, you can't do it. Why? Because you don't even know what it is you're moving. Now, if I taught you what all the stuff was, then you know all of the clouds. So if I taught you server virtualization, which I teach all my students, All of my students understand it. Well, they know how to deal with VMware on anybody's cloud. They know how to deal with the data center. They know how to deal with the AWS cloud, because an EC2 instance is just a simple virtual machine. And Azure virtual machine is the same silly technology that's the same 20-year-old technology. Google calls it a compute engine instance. Oracle calls it a virtual machine. Alibaba's got another term, but it's the same thing. Now, if you understand storage, it doesn't matter whether it's Dell EMC storage in the data center, object storage from 30 years ago, or it's Microsoft Blob, or it's Google Cloud Storage, or it's AWS S3. It's the identical technology. If you understand block storage, you understand the problems with it and why it's so slow. You'll know how to tune it in the data center, in Nutanix Cloud, in OpenStack Cloud, and Oracle Cloud, and AWS Cloud, and Azure Cloud. So the problem is you can't just learn the cloud and expect it to be able to do the cloud. You have to know the technology that makes the cloud work. And it's the same thing. So if I said, look, I need you to buy me a bottle of water, would it matter if you went to the supermarket? Would it matter if you went to a corner deli? Would it matter if you went to the water man or woman selling water on the street? No, it's just water. And the problem people have is they think they're spreading themselves too thin and they don't learn the cloud. Now, here's the thing. All clouds are identical. It's the same 20-year-old technology that we've been using forever. There's nothing new on the cloud. Every new press release, I love it. AWS made a new press release last year. Woohoo! A couple of weeks ago. We can now do IPsec over a direct connection. And I saw the people that didn't know the cloud, they posted and shared it like it was impressive. Of course, I said to every CCI I know, I said, didn't you do that back in 1998? And they said, yes. I saw some other solution architect, which clearly won't be on his job long, and he posted something. He was like, look at these virtual interfaces and virtual links that AWS can do. How exciting is it? And I reached out to the person. I said, please take your post down. I said, we've been doing this since 1996 with Frame Relay. If you walk into a customer and tell your customer about this being exciting, you'll be fired. Your replacement will thank you for the nice job, because you're going to show to the customer you don't understand the technology you're working with. So learn the cloud. Now, do you get certified to drive an Acura, and then certified differently for a Toyota, and then take a different certification for a Ford or a Chevy, or do you learn to drive? Now, if you learn what a car is and what a steering wheel is the way we teach you, it doesn't matter which car you're driving. And trust me, I've driven them all. Whether it be a Ferrari, a Mercedes, a Volvo, a Chevy, a Ford, an Acura, a Jaguar, a BMW, I've driven them all. Hyundai, I've driven them all, because I know how to drive. So if you learn more than two things, that's ridiculous, because it's the same thing that you're learning. Learn your craft. Master your craft. Now, no matter how many certifications you have, if you don't know the network and the data center, you will never, ever, ever be able to do a cloud migration plan. You will never be able to design a solution. So learn the stuff that makes the cloud possible. And then pick one certification. But here's the thing. I've got students like Delray getting hired with 0 cloud certifications. Or who was it? Robert Welch recently got hired. 61 years old. Well, he had a cloud practitioner. It's not about his certifications, it's about competency, competency, competency. If you don't actually know the cloud, which means you don't know all the clouds, you're not competent anyway. So that's why I consider this to be so dangerous. Learn the cloud. Learn to drive a car. Drive any car. And I promise you, you're never going to see an architecture in real life that's going to look like something in a certification exam where it's all AWS stuff or all Azure stuff, and it's only one cloud. 87% of customers who use more than one cloud, 97% want to be. So if you don't know the cloud, you're not a cloud architect or a solution architect. You're just certified. Barca, thank you for the free classes and being got from the community. You're Barca from Nigeria. Welcome, 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 Barca. We love working with people in Africa. We literally have in our program over 300 Nigerian students, over 300 Cameroonian students, and they're getting hired every single day. We're thrilled just to have you on our free, or any way we can work out for you. Love that suit, by the way. I need one like that. You look really sharp over there. Do I have a specific template we can use? Well, it's not about a resume template, Reese. It's about taking your expertise and experience from your past life and translating that into your future life. In our Cloud Architect career development programs, both basic and live, we teach people live how to handle and how to design their resume. And we also teach them what to do on their LinkedIn profile. And here's the thing, Reese, our students don't have to apply for jobs. Wait, what? They get hired without applying for jobs? Yes. Our average student gets bombarded with LinkedIn responses, people reaching out to them every day. Some of them have never applied for a job and they're still getting hired. Like Delray Bet, got a Source Cloud Security Architect job, did absolutely zero search for it. And people reach out to them every day. So yes, we have very specific resume guidelines that are based on very specific careers, but that's part of our paid training program. Right now, we currently have 30% off all training using coupon code security, so we can help you get to your goals. Thank you for answering the questions. We'll watch again if it's uploaded. You've attended some of the SAA training. You attended, but you didn't attend our SAA training if you had coding and lost experience, since you're not from a code run. Good. And then just do architect training. Now, again, it's not certification training, it's architect training. But we don't code. Ever, ever, ever. Wouldn't even know how to. Chris, we go to the next one. Arcade, as a newbie, is it best to start with cloud engineering if you want to be network engineering? No, I would start with network engineering. What is a cloud network engineer? They're a network engineer on the cloud, which means if you don't know networking, you can't do any cloud things. And there's no kind of cloud engineering training that's going to prepare you for cloud networking. It's going to be the contrary. If you focus too much on cloud engineering, you're going to be doing everybody else's job. So if you want to be doing network engineering, learn to be a network engineer. And then learn the cloud piece, which is so basic. And here's the thing. If you're going to be doing cloud networking, you're still going to be working with interior gateway protocols in the data center. You're still going to be dealing with BGP and manipulating your links. You're still going to be dealing with traffic engineering. You're still going to be dealing with WAN technologies. And I'll tell you this right now. I've trained people to be network engineers, and they just went straight to cloud engineer jobs like nothing. But I've seen people try to be cloud engineers and not get the networking things along the way because it's a different skill set. Think of the cloud network engineer as a network engineer who just works partially on the cloud. When you realize that, you realize it's the network engineering that you need to do. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Focus on the network. Focus on BGP, interior gateway protocols, IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, route aggregation, switching, which means VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, function on QoS, focusing on which WAN technology you need to use. When do you use an IPsec tunnel versus an SSL tunnel, versus a private line, versus an Ethernet over MPLS version of a private line, versus software-defined networking versus SASE. Focus on ARP and proxy ARP and DNS and DHCP. Focus on link aggregation groups, port channel, ether channel. Focus to some degree on remote access and VPN concentrators and TACAC systems and Active Directory systems. Focus on the VPC, VPC peering, transit VPCs, and the such. Focus on those things. Bert Cloud Hard, good to see you. Michael, so good to see you. And Mike, you told someone earlier that if you live in the US, go for cloud architecture instead of engineering. Could you go a little more detail? You've never heard anyone say that? Sure, quick straight 21. I'm not selling any cloud engineering programs right now for the following reason. Cloud architects bring in money to a business. Meaning, once we go sell stuff, we bring in money to the business. Cloud engineers cost money. So if a cloud architect sells a $100 million deal, which is nothing for a cloud architect to sell, they brought $100 million into a company. So their $300,000 salary is nothing compared to the $100 million they brought into the company. Now, cloud engineers are expensive and they cost us money and they generate $0. Now, cloud engineers cost the company and they don't generate money. So what goes on in a recession? Companies lay off their cloud engineers and they hire somebody in other parts of the world. They go to a strategic outsourcer. And instead of paying $180,000 to a cloud engineer in the US, they can hire $15 an hour to somebody in India who can do the same job, at least as good, if not better. So unless people are living in one of these countries right now where they're going to be, so where we see world economic slowdown, we see a global slowdown in Europe, we see a massive global slowdown in the US and Canada, those cloud engineers are going to be laid off and they're going to be outsourced to other parts of the world. So keep that in the back of your mind. In a recession, you want to be tied towards the money. A sales rep, ding, ding, ding. A business development manager, ding, ding, ding. A cloud architect, ding, ding, ding. You don't want to be on the cost side. So you don't want to be in operations, which costs money, because they cost money. You want to be in the revenue producing side. So quick strike 21, I see a lot of cloud engineers getting laid off at some point in the near future, but the companies will still need to hire cloud architects. So that's why we're not selling any cloud engineering programs right now. Those that we've taken in, we're going to make sure they get the world's greatest jobs, because our students always get the world's greatest. But I wouldn't be focusing on a cost job going into what looks like into a recession. So I'll tell you one, we had several episodes about how to get hired in a down economy before we even hit our 2 negative quarters of GDP growth. But now we've got high levels of inflation, and in order to combat those high levels of inflation, organizations are raising interest rates to try and reduce the levels of inflation. And with that, that means layoffs are coming. You don't lay off your architects that are bringing money into the company. They're the last to let go. You don't lay off your sales reps. The first thing you lay off is your operations and your engineering staff. So that's why I'm saying for right now, I would be focusing more on careers that bring in money, like sales or architecture. And I would be focusing less on engineering careers. Now, quick strike 21, we may be back to selling engineering courses soon. If 6 months from now, we feel like the economy is going to be getting better, and then we know 6 months later to 8 months later, our students will be getting hired as engineers, then we'll go aggressively reselling it, because I love training engineers. I mean, I truly love it. But for right now, I'm not recommending people, unless they're in India, Pakistan, or Africa, because guess what? They're going to be the cloud engineers of the future. America's lost and will be a big gain to people in developing nations. And they're great at it. There's a tremendous number of technology people spread throughout the world. But for right now, I'm focusing on the people that are our main audience, which is US, Europe, and all those countries where I'm trying to put them in revenue generating positions where I feel more secure about their financial future. But that will change if the economy gets better. Burrow, when is the result for those who will be selected for the free career development? You did all the steps to qualify, and you're hoping to be waiting. We're going to be giving out once per week for the next 4 weeks. For all the people that are there, we're going to be having 4 contests. My team will be determining when those announcements are and come up with those announcements. That's outside of me. Chris, will those announcements be done once per week, or are they all going to be done in the end of the program, at the end of the contests over the next 4 weeks? Once per week for the next 4 weeks. So we will once per week make that known completely. Bettina, we work with many, many wonderful people in Cameroon, but now here's our thing. We have people on our team that speak French and people that speak English. Now, most of our students inside of our program are from the English-speaking side of our Cameroon. But I have 2 employees right now in Cameroon. And one of them speaks French fluently and one does not. But when we're working with a lot of the free things that we do in Cameroon, we work with my good friend Alphonse Chang, and we work with the church as well. We've got lots of good French speakers as well as English speakers, and it makes it work completely. We've got that worked out. In our career development program, it's all English. But with the relief work we're doing in Cameroon, we're doing with organizations that have people that are partnered with our organization. In fact, 50 of my students right now are participating in teaching in the Cloud Heroes Africa project, which is run by my good friend Alphonse Shang and me. We partner up all the time. And he's got lots of French speakers in there. And some of my students do there that also speak French. Great question. You want to start OCI as a beginner. What's the roadmap? I strongly recommend you don't try to do that. OCI is the smallest part of the cloud, which will have the least potential job offers. If you want to start OSI as the beginner, you still have to figure out what career it is that you actually desire. So you can tell me that, which career, and then I can tell you how to get there. But I will tell you, Oracle would be the hardest for you to get hired for. I strongly don't recommend that whatsoever. But if you learn the cloud, you'll know Oracle, AWS, Azure, Google, and you'll be good to go. So tell me which career, because otherwise it's not just learn a cloud service. You got to pick out which career you want in the cloud. See a couple quick questions on CompTIA search. We can address both questions at the same time. So there's people that are asking me about CompTIA certs. I see one on the A+. I see another one on the Net+. Now, what I'm going to tell you is this. When I see CompTIA certs, we take them off of people's resumes. The A+ and the Net+ is good if somebody wants to work at the Best Buy Geek Squad, doing PC repair, and that. But generally speaking, it builds the impression of a help desk person or junior like a Best Buy Geek Squad. So when we see that, we actually take them off of somebody's resume. In many cases, it's easier to get somebody hired without them than having them, because they conjure up that junior Best Buy Geek Squad kind of feeling. So we strongly advise people not get an A+, Net+, Cloud Plus at any stretch of the imagination. But if you have them, here's the key. Everybody knows that certifications, except for the Cisco Certified Internet Expert, don't relate to competency anyway, at least from a hiring manager perspective. So we don't care whether you're certified or not. We care, can you do the job? And I've had people get hired with them. Now, it's okay, but I wouldn't feature them. If you get something bigger and stronger, I'd remove them as fast as possible. So to the person asking me if you want an A+, I strongly recommend you don't. Now let's come to our attention that there's a person who, 3 years ago was talking about, being broken out of work, that's now teaching these certifications and charging $35,000 for that. Now I got to tell you, we've trained them and retrained them by making sure that they don't learn any of those things, and we retrain them, because I don't want to see this ever happen again. So, keep that in the back of your mind. These are those kind of entry-level things that are really designed for help desk. So if you want a job in the cloud, except for help desk, strongly don't recommend it. The question is, we told you exactly where you need to go and exactly every skill you need to learn. Quick Strike 21. But guess what? On Thursday, we're going to have How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job on a webinar. Take good notes, because we will spend an hour telling you exactly what to learn and also what not to learn. On the beginning of today's class, we told you every skill you need as an architect. And no, we didn't really mention certification once there, did we? We talked about skills. There's no architecture certification in the entire world that will ever get anybody hired. Might create one, but there's none now. Now, Bettina, our program, our Cloud Architect Career Development Program is in English. The work we do with Cloud Heroes Africa can be translated into French by the local French-speaking people, but our program is exclusively in English. Whereas I've got 5 minutes, no more. What a small world. Alphonse was your classmate. You attended the same secondary school. Love it, love it, love it. Such a nice man. Mike, you want to find a network engineer job at an internet service provider. What you need to concern, like Cisco being IKEA, CC Laminate goes back to the same thing. If you want a job as a network engineer at an internet service provider, what's your knowledge of intermediate systems to intermediate systems? What's your knowledge of OSPF? What's your knowledge of BGP? What's your knowledge of QoS? What's your knowledge of MPLS, traffic engineering, tag switching, label switching? What's your knowledge on primary and secondary explicit paths? What's your knowledge on designing MPLS TE tunnels, as well as Ethernet over MPLS? What's your knowledge with virtual routing and forwarding? It's the same thing on Cisco and Nokia and Juniper. It's all the same tech. So it's learning those skills. What's your knowledge on route summarization, route aggregation? What's your knowledge on link bundling? What's your knowledge on load sharing with BGP, making sure that you don't get out of order packets? That's the job. So what you need to concern yourself are things like that. I will tell you, my intro to networking was the Cisco Certified Internet Expert. I like to view that as a good intro to networking. And here's why. Back when I did it, it used to be a 2-day test before they made it easy because too many people failed. And I did that within 6 months of the time I started networking, for example. And with that, that's when I started to work on projects where I got to start to learn and do all these wonderful things on big things. But, you got to read the Internet Engineering Task Force RFCs. You got to read the things from the IEEE on Ethernet standards, for example. Those are the things you need to concern yourself. Now, today's network engineers actually do Python because they automate. So you probably need to know Python in today's world. You need to know TACAC servers, radio servers, Active Directory servers, but it's all about the network. Now, the things that I just gave you, I'm going to tell you right now, are about 50,000 pages of reading. Yes, you heard me, 50,000 pages of reading. And I will tell you that my CCIE, which is a million times more complicated than a cloud architect role, I can tell you that it was 75,000 pages of reading just to pass it. So those are the things that you need to understand, and you'll be good to go. I'll also tell you, CC Lemon, best job I ever had was a network architect. Cloud architect is the next iteration. We network architects and network engineers all become cloud architects, but love it, love it, love it. And I will tell you, there's no one book for a CCIE lab. There's about 50 to 75 books as well. Now, Chris, I'm going to share a picture, which is going to make it clear what I'm actually talking about. Let me see if I can open up one picture to make this very clear. Share screen. I'm going to show a picture of what a CCIE reading list looks like. Chris, if you can share that, that's a CCIE reading list for pretty much everybody else. Now, this is not including the Internet Engineering Task Force RFCs. This is also not including the IEEE specifications, but that's the list necessary to do a CCIE. And guess what? For the most part, you need half of that knowledge to be a cloud architect, to be able to design these systems. Because what is the cloud? Nothing more than a network and a data center that's been virtualized. And I can tell you right now that we can put a complete AWS certified solution architect professional in 500 pages. And I'm going to tell you that's why nobody's going to get hired just by passing this. This is the knowledge it takes to be required to get hired in for one of these elite careers. This is a networking career. Look, the cloud's easier. The cloud is a lot easier. We can get the cloud reading down to 25,000 pages, or with our 500-hour cloud architect career development program. But this is the minimum level of knowledge necessary to be good in any one of these tech careers. And mind you, see all these books? All of them, every last one of them? It's not with like one's on DevOps and one's on SysOps and one's on databases. All of this stuff is on one little tiny part of networking. Just a percentage of it, predominantly routing and switching. And maybe a little bit of Python to deal with that, and some of the hardware. That's there. This is literally just 1% of what goes into a cloud architecture career. That's why we have so much that goes into our work. At this point, it is 4 p.m. and I can't go any longer. So let me remind you of 3 things, and I'll be back to answer your questions. Remember, I'm here to help you in some way, shape, or form with your career every day, Monday through Friday, completely career. On Thursday, please join us for our How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. And we'll tell you everything you need to know to get hired. Now, this week, we're going to run a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp. Look, it'll have many elements from the Associate and many elements from the Certified Solution Architect Professional, because I want you to develop some competency in this class. And if you're trying to get your first cloud job, or get promoted in tech, or interview, any of our programs right now are 30% off using the coupon code SECURITY, because it's cybersecurity awareness month. So use coupon code SECURITY and get yourself cloud hired. Now, if everybody give me a hashtag cloud architect and everybody can give me a hashtag cloud hired, we'll end this, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.